rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events. This is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone. This is American Perspective. I am your host, Rick. Really quickly, Trump is speaking in Arizona. I am just going to break to it just for a few minutes, if that, just for all of us to listen in, just because, of course, you know, it is Trump. So here we go.
It brought a lot of people back because they said the United States is run by incompetent people. The United States is no longer respected. It's no longer strong. That's what they said. A lot of these things that you're seeing now wouldn't have happened except for the horrible, horrible event of Afghanistan. You know, I was dealing with the leader of Afghanistan, Abdul, and I said, Abdul, you can't kill our people. He was killing our people. I had a strong talk with him. I'm not going to get into it exactly. We went 18 months without one soldier being sniped at.
All right. So obviously, President Trump is hitting his normal things that he has on his agenda. What I wanted to grab was, of course, his special guest, RFK Jr., who came and spoke for roughly about 3 minutes, maybe 5 at the most, at the event. And he basically talked about wanting to have good food. Trump has also announced that he is going to, should he win, he is going to put together a commission that will open up all of the documents on JFK's assassination and any other presidential assassination attempts. He's going to go ahead and do that. So some good news coming out of the campaign. Of course, you know, RFK announced today that he was dropping out and endorsing President Trump. So it looks, I mean, everybody kind of knew who the special guest was going to be. So yeah, he came out, spoke for, I don't know, about 5 minutes. Like I said, you can check it out, on Rumble, because I'm sure after the live is over, you'll be able to grab the recording and listen to it afterward, for the situation for that. But this is the American Perspective right here on all of my shows. So welcome to American Perspective. I am your host, Rick. And let me go ahead and get out the first thing of the evening, of course, is our wonderful pledge. And tonight's pledge is being performed by Ms. T of Tex from Rumble and Facebook land. So if you are of mine, please stand, remove your hats, put your hand over your heart, and join with us in the pledge, or join with Ms. T of Tex, I should say, in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, and thank you, Ms. T, for submitting that wonderful Pledge of Allegiance. If you would like to have your rendition of the pledge being done here on the program, go ahead, record yourself doing it, and send me that audio file. You can send it to me via email at fans, F-A-N-S, at americanperspective.online. That's fans at americanperspective.online. And tonight's sponsor is True Grit Roots Network. TGRN.net is the place to go on the internet for 24/7, 365 blues. TGRN Blues is the channel. TGR TGRN.net is the location. Let me tell you about our wonderful program called Mighty Mouth Blues. Mighty Mouth Blues airs Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. Central, as well as an encore presentation on Saturdays at 8 p.m. Central. And you can check out my buddy, my friend, my best friend in this endeavor, Jonathan Oogie Richards, hosting Mighty Mouth Blues. He's a multi-award winner blues DJ, just fantastic guy. And he is with his daughter, Amber Burr-Hill. And they, of course, bring you the hottest mix of new blues and old school hits, along with interviews with artists and blues news makers shaping today's blues from all parts of the world. Once again, that airs on Tuesday, 8 p.m. Central Time, and you can catch the encore presentation Saturday, that's tomorrow, 8 p.m. Central Time as well. Go and check us out, tgrn.net. Find us there, and you can either listen through your browser, you can click the links to download our app, or if you already have either the Live 365, the Odyssey app, that's AUDACY, or the iHeart app, you can find us in their catalog of digital radio stations. Go to tgrn.net and listen to True Grit Roots Network, TGRN Blues, and we're based out of Austin, Texas. Okay, so the obvious talk of the town is the fact that RFK Jr. dropped out. He did a press conference and, announced it in, I think it was, he was in Arizona when he did this, and Trump was in Nevada. Trump had a press conference as well in Nevada shortly thereafter. But Kennedy, let's face it, he's been beaten up quite a bit by the Democrat Party. And he let that be known in his speech where he is talking about it. What's going to happen is he's actually going to remain on the ballot in safe states where Democrat nominee Vice President Kamala Harris or Trump are likely to prevail. So in other words, whatever place that he's, he basically has no chance. He's going to stay on the ballots for those. But in the 10 battleground states, he has decided to remove his name from those ballots, and he urges his supporters in those states to back President Trump. And part of the reason why is because, as he says, in the name of saving democracy, the Democrat Party has set itself to dismantling it. He's claimed that the DNC has engaged in continual legal warfare against both President Trump and himself. Kennedy condemned the Democrats' 2024 primary as a sham that was rigged. He also condemned President Joe Biden's decision to drop out of the race as a palace coup. He said the same shadowy DNC operatives appointed his successor, also without an election, and he is right about that. They did. Kamala Harris is the first presidential candidate that has not won a single primary vote. Not one. Not in her presidential run in 2020, not in her not dealing with, of course, the vice president doesn't get any ballots because they just kind of come along on the ticket. So Kennedy also added to this, in my heart, I no longer believe that I have a realistic path to victory. And he said that he cannot in good conscience ask his volunteers and donors to support him. He disagrees with Democrats on most existential issues. He further encouraged supporters in blue states to go ahead and vote for him. Obviously, in other words, to pull away votes from Kamala Harris. But yet, he will remove his name and encouraged voters not to vote for him in those states, that they should throw their weight behind President Trump. He said that he was supporting Trump due to his concern for free speech, war in Ukraine, and the war on our children. So, yeah, this is a big deal, folks. This is a big deal. He talked about the message, of course, on the food issue, healthy kids. He's got a lot of what a lot of people consider good ideas with regards to food quality, the fact that the FDA is actually run by the businesses that the FDA is supposed to be regulating, which is true. And that's the same thing goes with pretty much anything, even when it comes to, well, as we saw with the whole vaccine, quote unquote vaccine. So there's an interesting talk that there is a potential that RFK Jr. might be a part of the new Trump administration. And that potentially would be a good fit in certain areas where, RFK Jr. is well, let's just call him a self-learned expert on certain things. He also took shots at the censorship that has been running around in the Democrat Party and their use of the regulatory bodies for censorship. Speaking of that censorship, he also has won today. He also has won the right to sue the government and several organizations, several of those regulatory bodies that have censored him for that censorship. So the judge in that particular case has said that he can move forward with his attacks. So, or with not his attacks, but his lawsuits, I should say, against the attacks. Let's just rephrase that correctly. Now, all that being said, here is a portion of that announcement where he really, really hits on the Democrat Party for the things that they did. And this, of course, hat tip to Chief Nerd on X for this one.
Instead of showing us her substance and character, the DNC and its media organs engineered a surge of popularity for Vice President Harris based upon, well, nothing. No policies, no interviews, no debates, only smoke and mirrors and balloons in a highly produced Chicago circus. There in Chicago, a string of Democratic speakers mentioned Donald Trump 147 times just on the first day. Oh, who needs a policy when you have Trump to hate? In contrast, at the RNC convention, President Biden was mentioned only twice in 4 days. I do interviews every day. Many of you have interviewed me. Anybody who asks gets to interview me. Some days I do as many as 10. President Trump, who actually was nominated and won an election, also does interviews daily. How did the Democratic Party choose a candidate that has never done an interview or debate during the entire election cycle? We know the answers. They did it by weaponizing the government agencies. They did it by abandoning democracy. They did it by suing the opposition and by disenfranchising American voters. What most alarms me isn't how the Democratic Party conducts its internal affairs or runs its candidates. What alarms me is the resort to censorship and media control and the weaponization of the federal agencies.
And that is exactly right. He brought that up again tonight in his short interlude with the Trump rally, which, by the way, my mother tried to get into the rally and couldn't find a parking spot. So I guess Arizona, Trump is very popular down there. Anyway, So yeah, he is, everything that RFK Jr. said right there is in line with everything that we know about the Democrat Party. Now, a lot of people have been saying that this RFK Jr. thing, it's not really going to do anything. Well, it's kind of got the Democrats a little bit concerned. And I'm going to be completely honest with you. I don't think we're going to see the full-on effect of what has happened this entire week until probably the end of next week. Or maybe even beyond, because it does take time to actually, for these kinds of things to filter through the system and be able to be picked up by polling and betting circles and things of that nature. Okay. But the thing about it is that a lot of people don't seem to understand is that when Biden dropped out, all of the, oh my God, Democrats that were like, I can't believe we're putting this fossil up, they jumped over to RFK Jr. because RFK Jr. was still technically a Democrat, even though he was running as an independent. And of course, everybody identifies the Kennedy name, which this is really a big problem that I have with politics in today's world, which is if you get name recognition, it's almost guaranteed that you're going to gain a following. You may not even have any relation to that person, but if you can gain name recognition to somebody who is fairly well known in the political sphere, you can gain a wave or a small wave, small bump, whatever, a band of followers just because of your name. And so the Kennedy name has been associated with, obviously, JFK, which is like one of the great Democrat leaders that they all aspire to. It's kind of interesting to think of JFK's policies. A lot of his policies would have actually landed him on more of the centrist right side of the aisle rather than the left side of the aisle, because of the fact that the leftists have pulled the left so far left, kind of like what Elon Musk keeps saying, is that he never changed. But all of that being said, okay, they are nervous over this. And here's an example as to why. This being in PJ Media and shows a general election poll that was posted on X by David D. Chapman. When you had the full field, Harris, Trump, RFK Jr., Harris was leading in this particular poll with 46% over Trump's 44%, and RFK Jr. was at 9%. Well, when you just go head to head, Trump versus Harris, you end up with Trump being 51% and Harris being 49%. This is why they're a little concerned about it. And this isn't the only poll, as Rich Barris pointed out, the People's Pundit. In his numbers, he is saying that Trump is taking an initial 40% of RFK voters when they're asked who would they vote for if RFK wasn't on the ballot. Harris is only taking about a quarter of those voters. So that's 65%. And the rest, they consider just not voting. Now, when endorsed by RFK, he says support for Trump increases to just over 6 in 10. And what that means is he goes from 40% to 60%. Because of the fact that RFK endorsed Trump. This is where the Democrats are a little concerned about what's going on. And they should be, because of all of the damning things that RFK Jr. put out in his statements. And if he can continue to be on the campaign trail for Trump, I feel as though that would make a difference, because he can talk about the fact that, hey, Kamala Harris got anointed. I got ran out. I was a viable candidate and I got cut out of the whole process and start to hammer on the idea that the Democrats are no longer democracy protectors, but they are actually democracy destroyers, I think, is a very, very strong case to make sure that Donald Trump is the man for the job. He is the person who is protecting the country and saving the republic. The Trump-Vance ticket is saving the republic. And so if they can get RFK Jr. to actually go and do some campaigning for Trump and tell his story, even if he goes and just does interviews and talks about his experience with the Democrats and the National Convention and how he got railroaded out and how they've gone after him with lawfare, because the mainstream media is not going to cover all of that. But independent media, podcasts and things like that, they can. Hopefully they will. Well, the DNC concluded last night. I mean, technically it's going on today, but let's be honest. After the headliner disappears, does her thing and disappears, which, by the way, she only spoke for about 37 minutes, which makes me wonder if she can actually speak longer than that. I mean, I don't know. But the whole fact of the matter is that the entire Tuesday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday into Thursday has been just one long string of continual lies the entire time. On Monday, we had the wonderful send-off for the old Joe Biden, who Joe Biden was the greatest president since presidents have been presidential, and he was being sent off because he willingly and, unequivocally fell on the sword for the Democrats to save democracy. When in reality, he freaking got shoved out the door and off the cliff by Harris, Pelosi, Schumer, Obama, and and Hakeem Jeffries, I think, was in on some of that too. And so they went ahead and they just went and kicked him off. They like wheeled the old man in the wheelchair and just dumped him over the cliff and said, "There you go." Which is exactly how and then they said, "Oh, here, Kamala Harris, you are the anointed one, because if we don't anoint you, we are going to lose $100 million. Even Pelosi has mentioned and pointed that out, that she and other Democrats wanted him out because he was losing, regardless of the fact that he won the primary. But that's not the only lie that they said or talked about. They talked about, let's see here. They talked about abortion and how Donald Trump is going to destroy abortion, and that Vance wants, women to just be barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen. All of that is false. Both Donald Trump and J.D. Vance have said unequivocally that there's no way that abortion has been put back to the states where it should be. That's where it's going to stay. They don't want to mess with that. They don't want to put anything in terms of the federal government or anything like that. They also talked about the fact that, let's see, the whole very fine people on both sides and the suckers and losers hoax. Biden repeated that. Yep, that one's a lie. They lied about the whole making of 500,000 new electric vehicle charging stations have been created under his administration. Nope, that's false. There's only been 7 or 8. I'm not even sure I can get an accurate number there. J.B. Pritzker apparently repeated the injecting bleach line, even though Donald Trump never did that. Former President Barack Obama lied about Trump's tax cuts, claiming that it only benefited the wealthy, when in actuality, it benefited the middle class. And it also made the wealthy pay a bigger share of the burden for it. They also talked about Trump wanting to outlaw IVF. Tim Walz was furthering the fakery. Tim Walz was introduced as a command sergeant major at the DNC, and he didn't bother to correct him for it. Captain Police Officer Gonell, who was part of Capitol Police Officer Gonell, claimed that he almost died on January 6th when he actually suffered no injuries. On and on and on and on. Just kept going. And then, of course, that came and, the night came to Thursday, and Thursday was a fantastic night. It was the night where Kamala Harris was going to come out and tell us how she was going to do all of these things to fix problems that are currently happening in her freaking administration right now. If anybody with any kind of brains thinks that Joe Biden is the one that is in full and complete control and that Kamala Harris can't do something because she's the VP, I got a bridge in the middle of the freaking desert in Arizona to sell you. Because of the fact that Joe Biden has been wheeled out and sent out to the freaking pasture. Surprised they haven't gone so far as to take him out and shoot him like they do sometimes do for old farm animals. But still, they tried to disconnect Kamala Harris from all of these things that are going on. They lied about a whole bunch of things. Just all kinds of stuff. There's even more that I'm not even mentioning. But Harris Harris took the stage and proclaimed about bringing down the cost of groceries. She was the one that helped preside over the rise of them. She talked about taxing businesses, and again, I just can't. I can't do this anymore. You people are so stupid. She also talked about the immigration and the border, more about foreign policy, and she discussed about, Israel and backing Israel 100%. But by the way, those people in Gaza, we have to give them, the love and everything. Not mentioning the fact that the people in Gaza actually ushered in the government of Hamas in 2005. She kept lying about Trump. They lied about Project 2025. Oh my gosh. Now I'm going to tell you, I actually have a copy of 2025. I haven't read through it yet, although tomorrow's supposed to be a rainy day, so maybe I'll look through the 900 pages that the damn thing is on. But they brought out this big ass book. And I mean a big ass book. A book that was much bigger and thicker than this one, okay? And they plopped it on the desk and they said, "This is Project 2025. Well, I can tell you for a fact that even if I've been told roughly 80% of Project 2025 lines up with Agenda 47, the majority of people, when they are not told, I showed you that survey, when they are not told the lies of Project 2025 from the Democrats, they actually agree with them overwhelmingly by like a 2 to 3 margin, or whatever the margin is, 3-1, 3-2, or 2-3, whatever it is, 2-1 margin. I don't know. Anyway, 66% of people generally, okay, 2/3 Well, throughout that entire facade, they all talked about how joyful everything was. And, it wasn't even just the Democrats themselves, in terms of like the main speakers. It was the underlings, too. There's a clip that I've seen. Dan Bongino's played it. I think Wendy Bell's played it. In fact, Sean Parnell may have even played it, where they had a panel up in one of the little subcommittees that literally stated, the guy at the podium literally stated, hey, y'all, we only got 75 days left to keep our cool and keep everything under wraps. After that, we can just go ape shit. Really? You're basically telling everybody that they're already crazy, but we got to keep our cool to make it look like we're actually sane? Yeah. Yeah. And in fact, let me bring this up for you. This was one of the subcommittees, and one lady in the subcommittee, hat tip to 3 Chevy for pointing this one out and saying, hey, you ought to go grab this from Dan Bongino's show. So I did. But listen to this. And it's on loop, so you're not going to miss it. And I left it that way on purpose because I want you to understand what these people are basically saying. Take a listen.
That's what we need, because we need to unfuck our economy. We need to unfuck our economy. Fuck our economy. Unfuck our economy.
Did you check that out? Did you hear what she said? She's a Democrat from California who sits here and is saying that we need to, pardon my French, but unfuck our economy? Who the hell do you think fucked it up in the first place? 3.5 years of Kamala Harris, of the Harris-Biden administration, who fucked up our economy, and now we need to unfuck it? How are we going to unfuck it from the same fucked up when they did this? Let's hear that again.
That's what we need, because we need to unfuck our economy. We need to unfuck our economy. Fuck our economy. Unfuck our economy.
You dumb shits. This is exactly why. It's for people like this, and is exactly why I use the hashtag only morons vote Democrat, because that's literally what these people are. They are freaking morons. They are so damn dumb. They don't even realize you've been in charge for 3.5 years, people. 3.5 years. Everything that is happening today is because you took office and Harris went and passed the damn Inflation Increasing Act, which was the Green New Deal. And I know I'm not using the proper terminology for it. I don't care. These people are so damn dumb. 3.5 years of their leadership, and let's not even, now hold up. Somebody pointed this out on X not too long ago, and I actually find this actually amazing. 12 out of the last 16 years has been under Democrat leadership. Realistically, if you assume, like most people do, that Obama is the puppet master in the back who's pulling the strings, this is all due to Obama and his policies. So all of the shit that we've had to deal with for the last 16 years, -4 under Trump, which, by the way, by all economic numbers, the 4 years under Trump were doing much better for the American people. Even though they want to try and say that it wasn't. It was. You want to continue with 12 out of 16 years of economic horrific things? Their policies suck. They suck. They're horrible. We know this. And this is her economic policies that they announced prior to the Democrat National Convention. But the funny thing is, they didn't really mention any of this shit during the time that they were there. Take a look at this. Now, I do take a little bit of an exception for this. But American Peronism, they call it Peronism. And Peronism, by the way, for anybody that really wants to understand, is named for a political leader in, Argentina, whom, Milei just took over for it. But American Peronism is Kamala Harris's economic plan to ruin the U.S. So basically what she's doing, according to this article in the Daily Signal, she's basically doing exactly what Argentina's been doing, which Milei has just spent, 7 to 8 months turning that economy around and bringing it out. So here in the Daily Signal, they point out price controls, higher taxes, government intervention, and subsidies paid for by printing a constantly devalued currency. Those are essentially the pillars of the 21st century socialism and of the radical left ideology of Peronism that obliterated Argentina. So here we are, folks. We are heading, I'm telling you, this 2024, election. Sorry, I almost dropped the book. This 2024 election is all about two things. One is Americanism, and that is capitalism, Americanism, freedom, liberty, all of that is coming from the Trump-Vance campaign. The other is Marxism, socialism, communism. Now, like I've told you before, that Marxism is upstream from socialism and communism. And that is exactly where we're going if we vote and get in more Democrats. Democrats have taken over, folks. And they've finally, now that she's put this out, by the way, now that she has put this out for us to see in terms of our economic plans, there's now organizations and companies that are essentially starting to figure out the costs over this. In the Daily Signal here, according to the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget, Harris proposals will cost over $1.95 trillion across 10 years. However, it emphasizes that if certain measures become permanent, you also have the possibility that that figure could increase to $2.25 trillion. Now, keep in mind, we're already at like 35 trillion in our debt. We're barely making 5 trillion a year in revenue. How are we going to pay all of that off if we keep this up? And that's just on the low end, by the way. Breitbart points out that the Americans for Tax Reform pulls out a number of close to $5 trillion hiking taxes over 10 years. So we're looking at anywhere from, for her tax plan, anywhere from an increase of $2 trillion to $5 trillion for this. And how is she going to do that? Well, she's going to do that because she's going to hike taxes on capital gains. She's going to make it, those capital gains taxes, and unrealized capital gains, by the way, are going to be higher than even China. China has a capital gains tax of 20%. she's recommending 44.6% on capital gains and dividends, and an additional unrealized capital gains tax of 28%. Yeah. Yep. Oh, sorry, it's 25% minimum tax on unrealized gains for those making more than 100 million. You know, I think these Democrats don't seem to quite understand that those people that are making all of that money, they're the entrepreneurs. They're the ones that are looking for the next big thing, the next big advance in our technology, the next wonderful money-making opportunity that they are looking to do. And so their investment of that money back into the economy, such as, for an example, Elon Musk with his SpaceX, Jeff Bezos with his adventure, and stuff like that. Those are the rich men of the company. They have so much money, they have to find places to put it. If you're going to tax it, they won't have that money anymore. They won't have that money to be able to invest in the next big thing. And to keep the middle class from being able to work on those projects on the next big thing. Other major, in this Breitbart piece, they also point out that other major Harris tax increase proposals include having small business owners pay taxes on their individual tax returns up to 39.6% from the current 37. Okay, so our entire economy runs on the backs of small businesses. That's been shown and proven over and over and over again. Imposing a second death tax, which is a mandatory capital gains tax at death, in addition to the current death tax, imposing a 21% minimum global minimum corporate tax rate, which of course goes beyond the Organization for Economic Development's current 15% global minimum tax rate, quadrupling tax on stock buybacks, which would impact Americans' 401ks and other retirement accounts. Seriously? Yeah. 30% federal excise tax on electricity used in cryptocurrency mining. Yeah. They want a $37 billion tax on American energy and a 32% increase in Medicare taxes. Yeah. So this, I mean, all she wants to do is tax. That's it. Tax yourself into oblivion. This is horrible. I mean, just absolutely horrible. For anybody that wants to have independence, freedom, liberty, etc., vote Trump Vance to save the Republic. Well, just in time, Fed's Jerome Powell signals a rate cut. He says, and this is the epic time. So this is coming up. And by the way, they're getting ready to have a meeting in September. I think it's September 18th, I'm thinking. But anyway, he signals that there is a possibility for a rate cut, and this is for the interest rates. So what do you think this is going to do for the inflation rate? They're going to cut the interest rate to try and blow more money into an economy that's already hot and weak because of that 818,000 job turned down for that. But anyway, so the inflation and labor market data indicates the U.S. economy is experiencing an evolving situation. No, we're experiencing what a lot of people would understand as stagflation as to what's going on. Stagnation in the economy and inflation at the same time. So anyway, according to Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell, he says the time has come for a policy to adjust. And this is speaking at the central bank's annual Jackson Hole Economic Symposium. Powell gave the green light to change the institution's monetary policy stance. He stopped short of announcing the timing and the pace of interest rate cuts, but reiterating that, of course, the Fed will be data dependent. Now, most people are thinking it'll probably be a quarter-point rate cut. But it could be, depending upon the situation, it could be as much as a half-point rate cut. But he says that the Fed chief offered reasons for altering policy, meaning that inflation has eased, the job market is no longer overheated, no kidding, and the global supply chain has normalized. And he goes, the balance of the risks to our two mandates has changed. And they mandate they have a dual mandate, by the way, of price stability and maximum employment. So this is going to come in to make everybody on the left happy. That's essentially what this is going to do. So anyway. All right. Well, I've got one more thing to talk about tonight, and then, of course, I've got to get to a special birthday. But the one thing that I do need to talk about is, I don't know if anybody is aware that there's a great movie, at least what I think is going to be a great movie, coming out at the end of next week, 1 week from today, on August 30th. It is a movie that is put together to demonstrate a grand and great American. I like stuck them together. A grand and great American. This guy right here. This guy right here. Ronald Reagan. Yes, the movie is finally coming out. The producers, of course, didn't plan on it coming out. And it's supposed to be a biopic, but biopic pick, but they didn't plan on it coming out, but there were some things that occurred, like the pandemic, of course, and the actors' strike. Now, Dennis Quaid has been doing some promotional tours about it, and according to a lot of people, the movie who have pre-screened it, the movie itself, especially those who lived through this era, the movie itself is not what you would expect coming out of Hollywood, that it actually sticks fairly close to the historical issues and doesn't really get into necessarily the politics of today. They didn't infuse the movie with politics of today. So, yeah, this is great. I mean, this is, according to the people who have seen it, it is really, really good. And Dennis Quaid, apparently with some makeup and things of that nature, that he actually looks a lot like Reagan did, which makes it even better. And knowing that Dennis Quaid actually grew up in that time period, he was able to actually, my understanding is, take on some of his mannerisms as well. And so it's supposed to be really, really good. And Quaid's performance, according to this piece in the town hall that I'm looking at, Quaid's performance does not distract from the memories of those who lived through his presidency. They actually managed to infuse not only his strength and his convictions, they not only got those right, but they also point out Reagan's propensity to be incredibly funny. For an example, there's a couple of scenes. There's the scene where he got shot in 1981 outside the Hilton Hotel. and they kept in or allowed the now famous line to Nancy Reagan, "Honey, I forgot to duck," along with his quip to the surgeons where he says, "I hope you are all Republicans." Now they also portray, they have Dan Lauria, who is I like him as an actor as well. But they have Dan Lauria playing Speaker Tip O'Neill, who was the Democrat Speaker of the House at the time. And they have the two of them and show their relationship to where they agree to stop talking about politics after 6 p.m. and they would discuss how to resolve their differences over drinks at the White House and things of that nature. So they don't get into the politics of today. They display and demonstrate more of what the old Democrats used to be with the older Republicans, and not quite the same divisiveness that we have in today's day and age. Now, they have other quips in there, like, for an example, people criticizing him for not meeting with a series of Soviet leaders when he kept saying, or when he would say, well, I would, but they keep dying. And they have Michael Gorbachev, or character Michael Gorbachev, going in, and they talk about, it was played by a guy named Oleg Krupa. Doesn't look like him, other than they gave him the birthmark on his head. But they generally stick to the historical script. And so this is why I have a fascination about this, because of the fact that they are sticking to the history. They're not trying to modify it. They're not trying to change it. They're not trying to turn it into something else. So they are attempting to stay with the history of what's going on. Now, the one line that I wish they would have done and kept in, this to me is like one of the greatest lines ever. And no, I'm not talking about the Walter Mondale, line about how when they were in the debate and Reagan was asked, people are saying that you're the oldest president that ever was. Well, up until Joe Biden, of course, but you're the oldest person running for president. What does that, how do you respond to that? And he basically said, well, I'm not going to, downgrade, or I'm paraphrasing here, but I'm not going to downgrade or, attack my opponent for his youth and inexperience. Oh my gosh. So I wish they would have stuck that line in, but they didn't. It probably ended up on the cutting room floor. But the other line that I really, really wish they put in the film was essentially the line that he gave in his speech, where he was talking in, I believe it was 1964, when he was supporting Barry Goldwater for president. And this line in particular is, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they are ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. And that, my friends, describes the Democrats straight up to a T. They've got some great things going on. Think about going and taking a look and seeing it. As you can see, I do have a love for Ronald Reagan. This is the autobiography of Ronald Reagan. And it is quite thick. But yeah, he was a great man, a great president. I personally believe he was the last great modern president in history. He is much more of a president than pretty much any of the ones that we've had so far. And yes, not that I am knocking Trump. Trump was a good president, but Ronald Reagan, in my view, was a great president. And his timing, where he and, the Pope and British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, the three of them working together in order to get rid of the Soviet Union and turn the world into a much safer place to be, and gave us the last 40 years of economic prosperity up until the point that Obama and Biden destroyed it. Yeah. Anyway, he was very much loved. I know there's a lot of people who think he destroyed the middle class. If that was the case, why do we still today have a middle class, which nobody has been able to answer? Oh, he destroyed the middle class. No, actually he didn't. But anyway, I digress. They also try and blame him for taxing Social Security when it actually was the Democrat majority in the Congress that created that debacle. But anyway, that's the problem with people who don't study their history and don't understand the historical nature of certain places and things. But anyway, the wife and I've already told her that we're going to try and go and see it for a date night next weekend. So anyway, all right. I have one more very important thing to put out for you. Actually, two more important things to put out for you. First, this statement from the illustrious Vice President and presidential nominee candidate for the United States, Kamala Harris. I would try to do an impression of her, but it's not going to work because I tried it earlier and my wife basically said that is horrible. But here's the statement. Today is today. And yesterday was today, yesterday. Tomorrow will today, tomorrow. So live today. So the future today will be as the past today as it is tomorrow. That's her statement for this wonderful day on the end of her DNC thing. Yeah. I am so looking forward to the debate. I really am. I'm getting so tired of all these leftists thinking that she's actually going to survive. Oh my gosh. Anyway. All right. Last thing that I need to do is I need to do a fantastic and great and wonderful song to a wonderful longtime Whiskey Warrior P1. Tonight is Coco Dominguez, or today I should say, is Coco Dominguez over on Rumble, her birthday. And as always, when I am aware of somebody's birthday, I need to, of course, wish them a happy birthday. So here we are. Let's see if I can do this. Here we go. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Coco Dominguez. Happy birthday to you. Hope you had a great day today, Coco. Happy birthday. Hope you enjoyed it. Sounds like it was relaxing, at least at one point. And 3 Chevy, you're not supposed to tell us her age. Coco being 18 years old, you're not supposed to tell a woman's age. Come on now. Be nice. All right. That's it for me for tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, please do me a favor. If you are of mind to help me out, head on over to rumble.com if you haven't already, and make sure that you sign up for an account. And once you do, of course, search up the American Perspective channel and hit that follow button. I'd really love to get some more followers. I'm at like 736. I'd love to hit like 1,000. That would be awesome. That being said, if you are already on Rumble, the other goal that I have, of course, is to make sure that I hit that leaderboard sometime in the near future. So the only way that we can help that out is to make sure that you hit that thumbs up button, which is the Rumble button. And I do appreciate that for that. We will see you tomorrow night, tomorrow is Saturday, 1 hour later, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern time, right here on the American Perspective broadcast, or American Perspective channel. God, I'm just failing all over the place. It's time for a drink. It's Friday. And And we will see you tomorrow night. Have a great evening and good night, everybody.
The previous broadcast was produced and is owned by Active Eye Media LLC. All rights reserved.